Hi everyone, I would like to introduce our group, which comprises of Shekhar, Stephen, and myself. We are designated as Group 3 and have been assigned the task of conducting a case study centered around a data science use case for Expedia. So, Expedia is a household name that most individuals have encountered and used at some point in their travel planning. It oversees more than 20 diverse hospitality and travel companies. They play a pivotal role in facilitating, travel arrangements, including flights, hotels, car rentals, cruises, and activities. They actively collect extensive consumer data, including insights into popular destinations, travel preferences based on geographical locations of customers, customer demographics, and a wide array of ratings. So, Expedia's objective was to establish a robust and reliable and scalable data infrastructure. This infrastructure would empower them to make more informed business decisions and maintain a competitive edge in the industry by enhancing the user experience. Notably, the primary cause of their site abandonment, according to their metrics, was encountering error pages. So, this issue led to a loss of customers and revenue, as visitors often abandoned their search on Expedia and turned to alternative platforms when faced with page errors or slow loading times. Expedia aimed to ensure that users globally could quickly find what they were looking for without encountering errors. So, consequently, the decision was made to migrate mission critical applications from on prem data centers to the cloud. So, just talking a little bit about the specifics of this migration, they had been operating all of their services from on prem data centers in Chandler, Arizona. So, this operational model resulted in timeout issues that affected customers worldwide. Recognizing the need to run their applications in proximity to their customer base, they decided to expand their reach in Europe and Asia Pacific. They identified that the prevailing network latency, which is about 700 milliseconds, was a significant obstacle that needed to be reduced substantially. At the time, they were processing around 240 requests per second, but wanted to scale up their capacity to handle at least 3,000 requests per second. The decision was then taken to transition these services to the cloud with the objective of enhancing their service quality and mitigating their latency concerns for their customer base in Europe and Asia Pac. Expedia opted to migrate their services to Amazon Web Services, which we know as AWS, as it addressed the array of issues that they were encountering. So now I'm going to hand it over to Stephen, who's going to talk about the vision and goals of the expected state.
The vision and goals of the expected state for Expedia's migration is one that they saw themselves having a cloud-based solution, a single cloud-based solution that essentially would allow them to retire their existing physical data centers. If you remember, Neha said that those were they were housed in Chandler, Arizona, and that was part of the reason why they were getting so many errors is because they didn't have data centers close to their customer base. So by transitioning from the physical data centers into a cloud-based solution, they were going to be able to improve efficiency of their software deployments and websites, and then consolidate the data that they have across all their brands within the Expedia group. There's upwards of 20 brands that they have under this umbrella, and they wanted to make sure that they could have a place where they could store all of those brands and easily migrate data between the two and share across the different migrate between all of them and then share across all of those different companies. So some of the goals that they had in mind as they were going to do this, they wanted to streamline and simplify their technology stack. They had a high manual touch rate for their payment processing. And so the manual touch rate that they have was around 17%. Obviously, the higher the rate that is, the longer it takes, but also the more error chances you have because you do have a manual processes in place. The cloud-based solution would allow them to reduce this to about 0.06%, which is a vast improvement. And then also a cloud-based solution would allow them to essentially speed up their vendor payment processes and the transactions that they have. So if you've ever used Expedia, I actually had this problem before in the past. You may pay and it will be a while before you get your confirmation email or something like that, or you'll get your payment verification, or sometimes you may not even get it. And so transitioning to a cloud-based solution would allow them to speed up these vendor payment transactions from 1 day to seconds. So that would be an improvement for them, their vendors, and also their customers to get their confirmation. Also, improving agility and scalability to process their data requests. So because they had physical data servers out of that data center in Chandler, Arizona, they had to keep them running at about 30% capacity to avoid the boxes running hot, essentially, while they were processing those 3,000 requests per second. But with the cloud-based solution, Expedia could push that consumption up to approximately 70% due to the ability for the cloud to scale. And so that essentially more than doubled their computation efficiency in their data processing. Again, as Nihal pointed out, the Expedia group processes about approximately 240 requests per second. A cloud-based solution would enable that. The auto scaling would enable them to match the load demand rather than being confined to whatever the physical data centers could handle. And then the cloud-based solution would also allow them to process all of the terabytes of data, the travel data that they had, and analyze these things in real time using the streaming services that the cloud-based solution provides. The on-prem latency was approximately 700 milliseconds, while the cloud-based solution could decrease this to about 50 milliseconds. So they were hoping to decrease latency significantly. And then relying on the legacy data system for its analytics needs, data could take up to 46 hours to become available for analysis in some cases. While the cloud-based solution, they could analyze data, 7 days of data in 30 seconds. So this was a 360x improvement in processing speed here. And then also migrating legacy system to the cloud, Expedia can cut down on database costs, eliminate vendor lock-in, and then scale to meet spikes in traffic while removing responsibility for manual processes and database management from its own team. So they were basically able to, or they wanted to be able to transition some of these manual services from their people to the cloud-based solution. So how does this look in terms of current and future? So the current challenges they had, obviously they had the physical data center, the legacy data system they were trying to transition from. Some of the challenges they had were the transition time and the cost to convert this legacy system. They also had the high latency, the many touch points, and then because they were locked into the physical data center, they didn't have the infrastructure to be agile. And then some of the current business challenges were that number one was that vendor payment. So not only did they have the timeout issues that their customers were facing, really their global customers were facing because they were so far from the physical data center, but that vendor payment, if it takes a full day to process, your money is coming slower, and in the business world, slow money is not good. And so then the data locations they had, they needed, in order to speed that up, they need to be more physically close to the customers that they had. And then also, it just took too long for the data to become available for their analysts to analyze. So that 46 hours was going to be a problem. So the future tech challenges after the cloud migration, there was no data monitoring structure in place because now they were kind of spread out, and especially because they have so many different brands under the Expedia umbrella, they had a lot of different data structures that they were dealing with. So that future challenge was going to be an issue. Again, there were data silos that persisted across different subs in the company. And also because they had these data silos, there was a need for data replication. And that data replication, when you're dealing with terabytes of data, actually increases the amount of data they had upwards of 70 petabytes of data. And so that was just, that's just going to be a lot of data to process. And because of that because of that data replication, sometimes you can have poor performance because you're just dealing with so much data. And then also basically they're completely reliant upon Amazon and AWS services. So, what if something happens to Amazon, what's going to happen to Expedia? And then there are future business challenges. So Expedia is a global company, and data infrastructure across the regions is not the same, and that can cause issues down the road. That's probably going to be something that they're going to be dealing with, just an ongoing process that is inevitably going to affect the business processes. And then as other companies transition to the cloud and get some of these benefits that AWS or other cloud services provide, Expedia will probably lose some of that competitive advantage. So they need to continue to be innovative. And then also, as Amazon controls more of the market share, will they raise the price? If the price goes up, will Expedia be able to handle that? Do they, maybe they'll have some services in-house that they can help to keep that cost low. Nevertheless, I will transition to Shekhar for the next section.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, my name is Shekhar Gupta, and I'm going to talk about proposed architecture and solution implementation details for this Expedia case study. Expedia's suggest service, ESS, is a type-ahead suggestion service that helps customers enter information about their travel, search for various locations in a correct manner. Expedia first considered an on-prem virtualization solution, but later on they went ahead with other cloud provider, which is AWS, because it offered global infra to support other regions like Asia Pac, US, Europe. Locating data and services close to the customers helped decrease the latency time from 700 milliseconds to 50 milliseconds, and also reducing the errors on web pages. Some of the key factors that were used to make architecture decision were things like infrastructure, automation, and proximity to customers. Expedia opted for a phased migration from SQL Server to Aurora post-GRE SQL. It was also proposed to use Kinesis data streams to process and analyze real-time streaming data for each travel booking. The new system will unify Expedia technology stack, and it will also eliminate the vendor lock-in. Expedia used Amazon Simple Queue Service (SQS) to decouple and scale microservices, which can scale to handle sudden burst of traffic to websites. Expedia was able to backfill 15 months of historical data with 200 transactions per second and complete the migration over a two-week period. Architecture is also proposed for another Expedia service called GDE, Global Deals Engine, which helps deliver deals to Expedia's online partners and allows them to create custom websites and apps using Expedia APIs. For this service, the architecture proposed was Hadoop clusters using Amazon Elastic MapReduce (EMR). This helped process and analyze streams of data coming from Expedia's global network of websites, like clickstream, user interaction, etc. This service also allowed to scale around 240 requests per second to 3000 requests per second. For this architecture, we can use auto scaling to match load demand instead of having to maintain capacity of peak load in traditional data centers. This architecture also enables a 230% CPU consumption efficiency in data processing. For implementation, Expedia proposed Chef Automate to automate the configuration of Amazon EC2 servers. Expedia applications like for ESS and GDE are hosted across different regions like US, Europe, and Asia Pac. This allows each region to have an isolated infra with a separate firewall application layer and a separate database layer. The team tackled the data silo challenge, established a data lake on AWS called the main data lake as the endpoint for different teams to submit their analytics jobs, backed by data processing engines like Trino, Spark, Hive, and machine learning on Databricks. A long-term solution should also be there without data replication, or at least avoid replicating data when it is not needed, having unified access to cross-region data. It was recommended to add an abstraction layer like Alexio here between compute and storage and achieve cross-region data access without replication of the data. This will provide a single global namespace, consolidating remote data lakes across regions. All the compute engines like Querybook, Jupyter Hub, Apache Hue, Databricks, RStudio, etc. They will be integrated on the abstraction layer. Uh, Also, we can use Waggle Dance as a catalog service with Metastore conversion. In the diagram here, it shows SQL queries performed by Hive, Spark, Trino, or Databricks, all point to the same catalog pointing to designated locations. This significantly simplifies data access and avoids direct access to cross-region S3, thus reducing S3 egress costs. In summary, using cloud like AWS and creating parallel production environments on AWS can enable faster application development, scale large volumes of data, and troubleshoot issues quickly. With the solution of cross-region data access, the query performance can be enhanced, and as well as the network cost can be reduced by as much as 50%. For the next steps, we are recommending to have a vision to achieve data mesh capability, which will decentralize the data management approach and let domain-specific teams manage data independently. Data mesh will also pave the way to enable self-serve for different Expedia brands, as well as create new capabilities to scale advanced analytics and machine learning. For this case study, we used many references listed here. For example, the Brandon O'Brien's slide, as well as the Expedia case studies on AWS and Alexio, as well as news articles like those on Forbes. Thank you.